Futaba has finally brought their newest mid-level remote to the US, the T6PV. Let's check it out. What's up everyone? I'm back for today at least. I'll be unboxing and overviewing this new Futaba 6PV remote from a drifter standpoint. So I may be skipping over some features that are important to you, but since this is an RC drift channel, I'm really only concerned with the features and settings that are applied to drifting, so let's open it up and take a look. Out of the box we get this short version printed manual. Currently at the time of this video, the full digital manual is not available from Futaba USA. This manual should get you going enough, especially in the drift world where we aren't using most of the more complex features on the remote, but if you were interested in scrolling through the manual to take a look before buying, you'll have to resort to the Japanese version for now, unfortunately. We have some accessories such as the large steering wheel, drop down, and angle adapter. There's some hardware and tools for the drop down and angle adapter, I'm assuming, and there's an included longer brake trigger. We have the receiver, which will be the R404 SBS-E or the R404 SBS with a long antenna, depending on which combo you buy. I mentioned the drop down and angle adapters. A nice addition that was not available at the 4PM that makes this feel like a higher tier remote. Included is the medium length APA adapter, but a short and long length adapter is sold separately if you feel like the medium is too long or too short. The included angle adapter is the 5 degree with an increased 10 degree adapter available separately. Also included is this 32 degree wheel adapter, used for limiting the total throw of the wheel. This can be useful for quickening the steering by shortening the steering range, or giving you more steering range and preciseness by using the standard 34 degree adapter. And here's the remote. It feels pretty good in the hand, feels like a typical Futaba remote, which is a good thing for me. You can actually change this rubber rear grip with grips from the 10PX. This comes with a large size grip installed, with a small and medium size available, sold separately. There are tension adjustments available for the steering wheel and trigger, a feature also found on the 4PM. I really like dialing this in to make the steering and trigger as stiff or soft as I like it. You can also adjust the stopping screw for the brake side if you don't want the brake throw to be so far, and slide the whole trigger unit forward and back to keep it in a more comfortable range for you. However, unlike the 10PX, you can't choose to angle the trigger to one side or the other. You can replace the brake side of the trigger with any of the Futaba options, such as the curved triggers, which can aid in not being able to angle the 6PV trigger, and the small or extra small metal triggers, which is a nice option that the 4PM didn't have. A lot of people like to make their triggers smaller with foam tapes, but the metal triggers are nice for a precise brake feel. And very unexcitedly, we have a spare body clip holder down here near the base. I guess this is good for you guys that still use body clips to hold your body on. Removing the battery cover, we find a battery tray for 4 AA batteries. We can pop this out and there's 2 servo ports. The open one will take any 2S LiFe or LiPo rechargeable battery. I would highly recommend getting one for any of the Futaba remotes. If you opt for Futaba's 2000 mAh LiPo battery, there's a rubber covered port on the back of the battery tray, just like the 10PX, for USB-C charging, so that's a nice feature for that battery, but it is an expensive pack. The covered port is used for the Futaba inductive wireless charger, and the 10PX LF02 model should work for this remote. Not sure what battery life on the AA's will be with the 6PV, but I always recommend Futaba users use a rechargeable pack for the extended battery life and stable voltage. The antenna for the remote is copied from the 10PX in this swivel style, and hiding behind it you have a micro SD card slot, which will be used for any future firmware updates, and the communication port has been moved over here, previously found on the back of the remote. On the back we have holes for the Futaba line of carrying handles. These will fit all the previous standard handles for the 3PV, 4PM, 7, and 10PXs. Before we power it on, I want to go over a few features that are currently listed on Futaba USA's website for this remote that I actually found were not applicable to the 6PV. I think they forgot to do their homework before posting the description for the 6PV, and it feels like they just copy and pasted straight from the 10PX listing. The 10PX has an available spring kit for the steering wheel and trigger if you want to adjust the steering and throttle tension past what the screw adjustment will do. There are no replaceable tension springs on the 6PV, there isn't on the 4PM, and there isn't on the 6PV. Your tension range is whatever you can get out of the adjustment screws, and that's it. There is mention of left-handed support on this remote. That is also incorrect. Such as the 4PM, if we look at the back of the 6PV, there are no screws to take off a back cover to swap the steering wheel unit to the backside, so right-hand use only. While we're back here, it's worth mentioning that there's a wall charger port missing from the 6PV. Even the 3PV has a port for the optional wall charger. This came as a shock to me, so if you're picking this up and looking for an option to recharge your battery without taking the battery all the way out, you'll probably be looking at the inductive charger or the USB-C Futaba LiPo. A USB port for gaming is noted. On the 10PX, a USB-C port hides behind the antenna where the COM port is on the 6PV. I looked all over the remote for any USB port, I did not find one. If you are interested in using the 6PV for PC gaming, there are other options. Lastly is a vibrate function for alarms such as low battery or telemetry alerts. The 7 and 10PXs have a vibrator built into the handle. I looked through the alarms on the 6PV and only found the audible buzzer option, so no vibrator in the 6PV, but this also keeps the weight of the remote down, so might be a plus. Immediately on startup, we see the nice new color display, utilizing the same user interface as the flagship 10PX model, giving a much more high-end feel over the 4PM model. Menu navigation is through the center jog wheel, which feels the same as the 4PM. There's a little getting used to the button orientation for me, but I'm used to the layouts on the 4PM and 10PX. To get to the menu, press the jog wheel in any direction. On the left, we have a direct button and an end button. The direct button by default from the home screen will bring you to the custom user menu, and the end button will return you to the previous screen. Press and hold the end button on any menu to return to the home screen. Holding the end button on the home screen will activate a trim lock, disabling all trims, switches, and the dial. Both the direct and end button can be reassigned as hotkeys to a hotkey to any menu you want to set them to. On the right of the jog wheel, we have a plus and minus key. These are used to change values of all the settings. You can also press both at the same time to reset the parameter to its initial setting. With all the basic features and functions out of the way, we can get into some of the drift-related stuff on the software. I have my Jarvis XX set up here with a Futaba servo and gyro, so we can take a look at some of the Futaba AccuVance ecosystem features. The 6PV only comes with the R404 receiver that runs the F4G high response protocol, but will bind to TFHSS or SFHSS receivers if you need to bind it to one of the older receivers. The new feature with the 6PV is the ability to run Futaba's UR Ultra Response mode for even increased response time. I can't show that today since I don't have a UR compatible servo or gyro yet, but it should be the same process as setting SR mode as featured in my Futaba servo video. Now let's look at the S-Bus servo menu. We have the full menu with access to all the settings, including the servo speed, which wasn't accessible on the 4PM, so that's good. Of course, we still probably have to plug the servo into the COM port to switch through servo modes. I tried this, and for some reason it wouldn't read on my CT701 or CD700. It's up to date and everything, so maybe they need to do another update, or maybe it's not possible for some reason. We'll have to see. Moving on to the gyro link. I have a GYD 550 set up here. No GYD 560 yet, but we're able to read everything through channel 1. I changed the wiring to S-Bus, and we can read through S-Bus with the 5 savable profiles. Onto MC Link, which is for reading the Futaba and AccuVance ESCs. I'll read my XX, but we can read all the Futaba and AccuVance ESCs. I have access to all the settings I can get to with the 10PX. It's a little odd backing out of the settings screen to write your changes, but it's okay. Now I'll show you all the telemetry features. First I'm going to set up some of the AccuVance sensor stuff. Now let's go to the home screen settings and change to the instrument panel. Now we can see 3 gauges on the home screen. I'll assign the most important data for me, which is your motor and ESC temperature and the battery voltage. Feels a bit complicated having to click through each of these to assign each gauge. I guess I'm just really used to using my 10px touchscreen to click on each gauge I want to edit on the home screen. You probably won't be changing these often anyways, so we'll just get these set up. Now unfortunately, this is the max displayable gauges the 6PV offers, unlike the 10px's max 5 gauges. Everything's assigned. Unfortunate that they aren't labeled, so you'll have to label them like I used to have mine labeled, or just remember which is which. We can set alerts for the temps and RPMs, but like I mentioned, no vibrator, only the audible buzzer. The last setting you might use, especially with the Futaba gyros, is this drift setting in the model menu. This will just enable gyro mixing and auto-assign the dial for your gyro game. Typically, I don't end up using this though.
My honest opinion about this remote? I think it does a good job at bridging the gap between the 4PM and the 10px. Although it lacks some of the physical features of the 10px, the color backlit screen is a really refreshing change from the bland 8-bit look of the 4PM screen, and the 10px UI offers a colorful update to scrolling through the menus. The price is a bit steep compared to the 4PM, but akin to the older 4px that was $550 that ran the 7px UI, it's just supposed to be a more accessible option that runs the nice color interface of the current flagship remote. And who knows, with this remote on the market now, the 4PM may one day have the same fate as the now discontinued 7px, so future drifters looking for a mid-level remote from Futaba may have the 6PV as their only choice. Regardless of the price, you'll sure to be happy with the quality we all know and love from Futaba that the 6PV brings. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description below if you want to snag one from Rolling Garage. Hope to see you all in the next video.
Yep, she's cooked. Where's the oil at?